The door opens, and Beckett Vale walks in. He sees my daughter first, not me. Her. His face drains of color. Every drop. Like someone just showed him a ghost he thought he'd buried 13 years ago. He's not looking at a stranger. He's looking at himself. Same jaw. Same eyes. Same stubborn tilt of the chin that I used to trace with my fingers when I was young enough to believe love could survive his last name. Ren stands. Offers her hand. Poised. Fearless. Everything I never was at her age. Mr. Vale. I'm Ren. He takes her hand like it might burn him. His mouth opens. Closes. Opens again. This is not a normal admissions meeting. Because 4 days ago, my 13-year-old daughter applied to the most elite private school in New York using a name that doesn't belong to her. His name. And whatever happens in the next hour will decide whether her future is earned, bought, or taken from her completely. I thought finding the letter was the worst part. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing she didn't find it by accident. 2 days before that meeting, I was standing in my kitchen, staring at an envelope that smelled like my worst nightmare wrapped in expensive paper. The crest hit me first. Navy and gold. A lion rearing over an open book. Harrogate Academy. The kind of school that sends senators to Congress and CEOs to corner offices. The kind of school that wouldn't spit on a girl from a 2-bedroom walk-up in Queens. I picked up the envelope with hands that already knew something was wrong. The acceptance letter inside was addressed to Ren Vale. My mouth tasted like copper. I had to grip the counter just to keep my hands still. Not Ashford. Vale. My daughter had put his last name on an application. To the one school in this city where that name opened every door. Where that name triggered alarms I'd spent 13 years making sure never went off. Ren. She appeared in the doorway. 13 years old. Dark hair pulled back. His jawline. My eyes. A combination I saw in the mirror every morning and pretended not to recognize. Yeah? I held up the letter. Didn't trust my voice to stay level. What is this? Not a question. An accusation. She didn't flinch. Didn't look away. Just leaned against the doorframe and said, "My acceptance letter? To Harrogate? Yeah. Under the name Vale? Yeah." The silence between us felt like a third person in the room. Watching. Waiting to see who'd crack first. Ren. I set the letter down before I tore it in half. Where did you get that name? Same place you hid it. She walked past me to the sink. Poured herself water like we were talking about a math grade. I found the photo. In your closet. Behind the box with the tax stuff you think I don't know about. The photo. One picture. 13 years old. Taken at some charity gala where I'd worn a borrowed dress and he'd worn a tux that cost more than my rent. Both of us smiling like idiots who thought the world would let us keep each other. I'd kept it because I'm weak. Because somewhere deep down I needed proof that I hadn't imagined the whole thing. That I'd once been someone a man like Beckett Vale could love. And my daughter had turned it into a weapon. Harrogate doesn't take regular kids. Ren's voice was flat. Controlled. But I heard the anger underneath. The 13 years of it. They take legacies. They take last names with buildings attached. So I gave them one, a name that isn't yours. It is mine. She slammed the glass down. Water sloshed over the rim. You made it mine the second you decided I didn't need to know where half of me came from. Ren, I'm done acting like my life started the day you brought me home from the hospital. Her eyes were bright now. Furious. I exist because of him too. And if his name gets me into a school that actually sees me, that actually gives me a shot at something better than this. She gestured at our tiny kitchen with its peeling linoleum and the ceiling stain I'd been ignoring for 2 years. Then yeah, I'm going to use it. I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her that names like Vale don't just open doors. They come with price tags. Conditions? A whole machinery of control that would chew her up and spit her out the second she stopped being useful. But I looked at my daughter, at the hunger in her face, at 13 years of watching her outgrow every classroom and every opportunity I could scrape together on a salary that barely covered rent. And I saw 2 nightmares. In one, I made the call. Told Harrogate the truth. Watched the acceptance evaporate. Watched my brilliant daughter disappear back into a system that had already written her off as just another smart kid without connections. In the other, I let it stand. Let her walk through that door under his name. And then watched as Beckett's world, his lawyers, his board, his whole gleaming machine of wealth and power, pulled her into a story I couldn't control. I didn't know which one would destroy her faster. But standing in that kitchen, looking at the embossed crest on that letter, I knew there was no version of this that ended clean. We arrived at Harrogate on a Tuesday morning. The campus looked like a movie set. Stone buildings with actual ivy climbing the walls. Kids in blazers and ties walking between classes like they owned the air they breathed. Probably because their families owned the buildings. The main gate had a brass plaque. Established 1887. Of course it was. Wren walked beside me. Shoulders back, chin up. Moving through this world like she'd been born to it instead of faking her way in with a borrowed name. Maybe that's what scared me most. How easily she fit. The receptionist at the front desk smiled when we approached. The kind of smile that's been practiced in a mirror. Professional. Empty. Miss Ashford? I nodded. Yes. We're here for the admissions meeting. She checked her computer. Still smiling? Of course. If you'll just wait in the reception area, someone will be with you shortly. She directed us down a hallway that smelled like furniture polish and old family money. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it's been here longer than you've been alive. The waiting room was exactly what I expected. Leather chairs that probably cost more than my car. A Persian rug that looked like it had survived 3 generations. Mahogany side tables with magazines I'd never heard of fanned out like decoration. On the wall, a portrait of the founder. Some guy with mutton chops and a look that said he'd never worried about money a day in his life. Wren sat down like she belonged there. Like she wasn't terrified. I knew better. I'd raised her. I knew that when she got too quiet, too still, she was holding herself together with wire and willpower. I sat beside her. Tried to read the signals around us. A woman walked past. Cashmere cardigan. Pearls. The kind of woman who'd never set foot in a building without a doorman. She glanced at us, smiled politely, kept walking. We were being measured, evaluated, every second we sat in this room. The admissions director appeared. Tall, blonde, mid-40s but fighting it with the kind of skincare routine that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Miss Ashford Wren, thank you for coming. She shook my hand. Her grip was firm. Controlled. Everything about her was controlled. I'm Mrs. Pemberton, Director of Admissions. She turned to Wren. Extended her hand. Wren took it. Didn't look away. Met her eyes like an equal. We're so pleased to welcome you to Harrogate. You're part of our scholarship candidate program this year. A very special group of students. Scholarship candidate, not acceptance. Candidate. The word hung in the air like a threat. I thought, I started. Stopped. Started again. The letter said acceptance. Oh, it is an acceptance. Mrs. Pemberton's smile didn't waver. Conditional on final interviews and documentation verification. Standard procedure for our merit-based placements. Just a formality. Nothing about this felt like a formality. If you'll just wait here, we're expecting one more participant in today's meeting. He should be arriving any moment. She disappeared back down the hallway. Heels clicking on marble. One more participant. Who brings a third party to a scholarship interview? Wren looked at me. I saw the question in her eyes. I didn't have an answer. The front door opened. Footsteps. Expensive shoes on expensive floors. I turned, and my entire world tilted sideways. Beckett Vale walked into the waiting room. 13 years older. Sharper. The kind of expensive that doesn't come from buying things. It comes from owning them. Charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Hair touched with gray at the temples. He stopped when he saw us. Went absolutely still. His eyes locked on Wren. Searched her face like he was doing math in his head. Adding up features. Calculating probabilities. I watched him see it. The recognition. The truth I'd buried for 13 years walking toward him in a Harrogate blazer. The color drained from his face. All of it. Like someone had pulled a plug. Wren stood, offered her hand. My brave, fearless daughter. Mr. Vale, I'm Ren. He took her hand slowly, like he was afraid she might disappear if he moved too fast. Ren. He said her name like he was testing it, tasting it. It's nice to meet you. His voice cracked on the last word. His eyes found mine over her shoulder. Held, and I saw the question there, the accusation, the absolute terror. Mrs. Pemberton reappeared, still smiling. Wonderful. Now that everyone's here, Mr. Vale, if I could speak with you and Miss Ashford privately for just a moment. Ren, you're welcome to wait here. This won't take long. Beckett spoke. Actually, I'd like to speak with Miss Ashford alone first, if that's acceptable. My last name. He used my real last name. So he knew. Already. Somehow he knew. Mrs. Pemberton's smile finally flickered. Of course. There's a conference room just down the hall. Second door on the left. Beckett gestured toward the hallway. Clara. My name in his mouth after 13 years felt like a knife. I looked at Ren. She was watching us, reading the room like the brilliant kid she was, seeing all the things we weren't saying. It's okay. I touched her shoulder. Squeezed. I'll be right back. I followed Beckett down the hallway. Away from the waiting room. Away from my daughter. Toward a conversation I'd spent 13 years avoiding. The door to the conference room was already open. He walked in first, held the door. I stepped inside, and the door clicked shut behind us like a vault ceiling.
You ever build a life brick by brick, protect someone with everything you have, only to watch it all crack open the second the wrong name hits the wrong desk? That's what just happened. Clara spent 13 years keeping her daughter away from a world that treats people like chess pieces. Ren spent 13 years wondering why half her story was locked away like a dirty secret. And Beckett Vale, the man whose last name opens every door in New York, just walked into a prep school admissions office and came face to face with a daughter he didn't know existed. Here's the thing about names. They're not just words on paper. They're keys. They're claims. They're tripwires connected to machines you can't see until they're already crushing you. And once you use one that doesn't belong to you, you can't take it back. If you've ever had to choose between protecting someone and giving them what they deserve, if you've ever watched a small lie grow teeth and start biting, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens behind that closed door, when a billionaire realizes his secret just walked up and shook his hand, that's when everything changes. Drop a comment. Tell me this. Was Clara wrong to let Ren use that name? Should she have corrected the receptionist? Or was she just doing what any mother would do, giving her kid a shot at a better life? Let me know, because the answer to that question is about to decide all three of their futures.
Beckett stood by the window, not looking at me, looking out at the campus, at the buildings his family's money built, the scholarships his name funded, the world he controlled. I stayed by the door, kept distance between us, kept my hand on the handle like I might need to run. We stood there in silence, waiting to see who'd speak first, who'd throw the first punch, because we both knew, whatever came out next, there was no walking it back. The conference room smelled like leather and money that had been sitting in the same family for generations. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, mahogany desks so polished I could see my reflection in it, abstract art on the walls, the kind that costs 6 figures and says absolutely nothing. A clock ticking somewhere. Expensive silence. Neither of us sat. He stayed by the window. I stayed by the door. 10 feet of imported rug between us that might as well have been a canyon. Finally, he turned around. You used my name. His voice was quiet, controlled, but I heard what was underneath. The barely leashed fury of a man who just had his whole world kicked sideways. My daughter did. I crossed my arms, held my ground. There's a difference. Is there? He took a step toward me, stopped himself. Because a 13-year-old doesn't just wake up one morning and decide to commit fraud on a prep school application. Someone taught her how. She taught herself. She's resourceful. She's a child. She's your child. The words hit him like a physical blow. I watched his hands curl into fists, watched him fight for control, watched the CEO mask slip just enough for me to see the man underneath, and he looked terrified. I know, he said finally. 2 words. Flat. Final. Like he'd already run the numbers and checked the math and come up with an answer he didn't want. You know, I didn't phrase it as a question. How? I knew the second I walked through that door. He moved to the desk, gripped the edge like he needed something solid to hold on to. The timing lines up. The resemblance is, she has my eyes, Clara, my mother's chin. The way she holds herself, that's my brother at 13. He looked up, met my gaze. And you disappeared 13 years ago without a word. Wouldn't return calls, wouldn't answer emails, just gone, like you'd never existed. Maybe I had a reason. Maybe you did. His jaw tightened. But that doesn't explain why a girl with my DNA just showed up at the one school in New York that has a direct line to my legal team. My stomach dropped. What? Harrogate has protocols. He said it like he was reading from a manual. Any applicant using the Vale name gets flagged for review. Security measure, fraud prevention. My family's endowment built half this campus. The library, the science wing, 3 full scholarship programs. They protect the investment. He pulled out his phone, showed me an email. Subject, security alert, Vale name usage, applicant review required. Your daughter's application hit my general counsel's desk 4 days ago. He pocketed the phone. They ran preliminary background, found your name, found the dates, put 2 and 2 together and told me to get down here personally before this became a public relations nightmare. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. So this meeting, my voice came out rough, strangled. This wasn't about Wren's scholarship. This was about damage control. This was about figuring out if my daughter is real or if someone's running a con. He said it without blinking. Their words, not mine. She's not a con. I know that. She's not a threat to your precious brand. I know that too. His voice rose. Finally, cracked. But you need to understand what you just walked into. What she just walked into. The Vale name doesn't just open doors in this city, Clara. It triggers alarms. It brings lawyers and security teams and background checks that go back 3 generations. You put that name on her application and you painted a target on both your backs. Then maybe you shouldn't have built a world where your own child is treated like a security threat. The silence that followed was sharp enough to draw blood. Beckett closed his eyes. Took a breath. When he opened them again, something had shifted. The CEO was gone. What was left looked almost human. Why didn't you tell me? There it was. The question I'd been waiting for. The one I'd spent 13 years preparing answers to and still didn't know how to answer. You know why? I know what I assumed. He moved closer, not touching, but close enough that I could smell his cologne. Same scent. 13 years later, and he still wore the same scent. I assumed you wanted out. That my life, the board meetings, and the photographers, and the family politics, that it was too much, that you left because staying would have destroyed you. How noble of you. It's what I told myself. His voice dropped, got quiet in a way that made my chest hurt. It was easier than admitting I was too much of a coward to fight for you. I wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the resentment like armor, but something in his voice cracked through it. You want to know why I didn't tell you? The words came out hot, bitter, years of them burning their way up my throat. Fine. I'll tell you. I stepped closer, got right in his space. 6 weeks after you let me walk out of your life with a note and a car service, I was standing in a bathroom staring at 2 pink lines on a stick, terrified, broke, trying to figure out if anything we'd had was real or if I'd just been another girl who thought she could fit into your world. His face went pale. I called your office, told your assistant it was urgent, personal, that I needed to speak with you directly. I could still taste the desperation of that day, the hope. You want to know what happened? Clara, I got routed, delayed, put on hold for 3 hours until some woman in a suit that cost more than my rent came out to handle me. She said you were unavailable, that you'd instructed her to manage any complications from your previous relationships. She said if I tried to contact you again, if I made any public claims, it would complicate your position with the board. I watched him process this, watched the realization hit. Then she slid a contract across the table, a non-disclosure agreement. She offered me money, enough to make the problem go away, enough to make sure I understood exactly what I was. Not a person, a liability. I didn't know. His voice was barely a whisper. I swear to God, Clara. I didn't know. Would it have mattered? Yes. He said it like a vow. Absolute. I would have burned that building down. I would have fired everyone in that office. You would have done exactly what you did. I cut him off. You would have let the machine handle it, because that's what you built. A system that protects you from messy things like feelings and consequences, and girls who get pregnant at the wrong time. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. It came out broken. You want to talk about fair? I walked out of your building that day knowing I had two choices. Sign the paper and take the money. Become another secret your family, buried in a trust fund and a confidentiality clause, or disappear. Raise my daughter away from a world that would treat her like a mistake that needed managing. So you chose to erase me. I chose to protect her. The words came out fierce, final, from lawyers and board members and people who calculate human lives like quarterly earnings. I chose to give her a childhood where she wasn't a scandal or a liability or a threat to shareholder confidence. And now she's here anyway. His voice was rough, raw, using my name, walking into the exact machine you tried to protect her from. Because she's brilliant and hungry and tired of being invisible, I felt tears burning behind my eyes. Refused to let them fall. Because I couldn't give her what she deserves no matter how hard I worked. Because your name opened a door mine never could. The silence stretched between us. Beckett turned away, walked back to the window, pressed his forehead against the glass. My father had other children. His voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it. Before me, before my brother, women he never married, kids he never claimed. I found out when I was 19, going through files in his office. I went still. He paid them off, made them disappear, erased them from the family history like they'd never existed. He turned to look at me. His eyes were bright, too bright, and I swore I'd never become him, that I'd never let money and power turn me into someone who treated family like a problem to be solved. Beckett. But I did it anyway. His voice cracked. I built the same machine, hired the same kind of people, let them handle the messy parts while I pretended my hands were clean. And I lost you. Lost 13 years with a daughter I didn't know existed. Because I was too afraid to be anything other than what my father trained me to be. Something in my chest ached. I shoved it back down, locked it away. I didn't get to feel sorry for him. Not after everything. This isn't about us. I steadied my voice. This is about Ren. I know. She's not a business problem. She's not a PR crisis. She's not a second chance for you to fix your daddy issues. I know that too. Then what do you want? I moved toward the door, toward escape. Why are we having this conversation? Because I want to know her. He said it simply, directly. I want to sit across from my daughter and let her ask me every question she has. I want to be in her life. If she'll let me, your lawyers won't like that. I don't care what they like. Your board won't approve. Then they can find a new CEO. He said it like he meant it. I spent 13 years letting fear make my decisions, letting other people tell me who I could love and who I could claim. I'm done with that. I searched his face, looked for the angle, the calculation, the carefully rehearsed sincerity that billionaires wore when they wanted something. All I saw was a man who looked exhausted. 48 hours. I reached for the door handle. Neutral location, no lawyers, no photographers, just you and Ren and the truth. And you, I'll be there. I opened the door. Someone has to protect her when this blows up in our faces. It won't. It will. I looked back at him one last time. Because your world doesn't let people like us just exist. It controls us, manages us, turns us into stories that fit the brand. And the second Ren stops being convenient, the second she becomes a complication instead of a redemption arc, they'll come for her. Not if I don't let them. You won't have a choice. I stepped into the hallway. You never did. I walked back to the waiting room. Back to my daughter. Ren looked up when I sat down. Searched my face with those two smart eyes. What happened? We're going to talk. I kept my voice low. Steady. All three of us. Soon? About what? I looked at my daughter. At years of questions I'd refused to answer. At the truth that was finally catching up with all of us. About everything. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, he's my father. Not a question, a statement. That man, Beckett Vale. He's actually my father. Yes. Her face didn't change. Didn't crack. She just nodded slowly. Processing. Is he going to try to take me away from you? The question knocked the air out of my lungs. No. I grabbed her hand, held tight. No one is taking you anywhere. We're going to figure this out together, all three of us. And whatever happens, you get to decide what comes next. Not him, not me, you. Ren looked toward the hallway, toward the conference room where Beckett was probably still standing by that window. He looked scared, she said quietly, when he first saw me. Really scared. He was... Of what? I thought about the answer, about the way his face had changed, about years of carefully managed control shattering in a single second. I think he was scared of what he'd lost. Ren squeezed my hand. Didn't let go. Good, she whispered. He should be. Mrs. Pemberton appeared at the end of the hallway. Same professional smile. Same careful manners. Miss Ashford, Ren, thank you so much for your patience. We'll be in touch within the week regarding next steps in the enrollment process. Translation, get out. We need to talk to our lawyers. I stood. Ren followed. We walked out of Harrogate Academy past the oil paintings and Persian rugs and kids who'd never once worried about whether they belonged. We got into my car, 10 years old, dented bumper, check engine light that had been on for 6 months. Ren sat beside me. Quiet. I started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot, watched the ivy-covered buildings disappear in the rearview mirror. Mom? Yeah? Did I just ruin everything? I looked at my daughter, my brave, too smart for her own good daughter, who'd knocked over a carefully stacked house of cards because she wanted to be seen. No, baby. I reached over, squeezed her knee. You just changed everything. There's a difference. She nodded, turned to look out the window, and I drove us home, back to our 2-bedroom apartment with the peeling linoleum and the water stain on the ceiling, back to the life I'd built brick by brick to keep her safe. The life that was about to come apart whether I was ready or not, because Beckett Vale wanted 48 hours. His legal team would want containment. And somewhere in the machinery of wealth and power and carefully managed legacies, someone was already planning the next move. The question wasn't whether we'd survive it. The question was what would be left of us when the dust settled. The coffee shop Beckett picked didn't have a sign. Just a brass handle and a guy in a suit at the door who checked his phone before letting anyone in. The kind of place where privacy costs more than the espresso and everyone inside knows better than to stare. Ren walked in like she'd been doing this her whole life. I watched her take it all in. The leather booths, the low lighting, the way conversations stopped mid-sentence when we passed. She was filing it away, cataloging, deciding what parts of this world she wanted and what parts she'd burn down. Beckett was already there. Corner booth. Alone. No suits. No lawyers. Just a man in a sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He stood when he saw us. Ren didn't wait for introductions. She walked straight to the table and slid into the seat across from him. Left me to follow. You're taller than your pictures, she said. Beckett blinked. My pictures? Online. Forbes. Business Insider. All those. She folded her hands on the table like she was conducting an interview. Photographers always shoot you from below. Makes you look taller. More powerful. It's a trick. I held my breath. Beckett laughed. Not polite, not fake. Actually laughed. The sound cracked through the expensive quiet like breaking glass. He sat down, studied her with something that looked like awe. You're direct. I'm efficient. Ren tilted her head. We have 48 hours to figure out 13 years. Small talk seems like a waste. Fair? He leaned forward. What do you want to know? Everything. She didn't blink. But let's start simple. Did you know I existed? The question hung in the air like a blade. I watched his face, watched him choose his words, watched the CEO disappear and something more human take its place. No, His voice was quiet, steady. Not until your application hit the security flag. That was 4 days ago. So Mom hid me. Ren? I started. I'm asking him. She didn't look at me. I need his version. Beckett took a breath. Let it out slow. Your mother made a choice based on what my world showed her. He met Ren's eyes. Didn't look away. She tried to tell me. Someone on my staff intercepted her. Tried to make the problem go away with a check and a legal document. Your mother walked out instead of signing. He paused. Let that sink in. So no, she didn't hide you, she protected you. From people who would have treated you like a threat to quarterly earnings instead of a human being. Ren processed this. I saw her brain working, calculating. That's a good answer, she said finally. Very diplomatic. It's the truth. Is it? She leaned forward. Because you're a billionaire. You have investigators, lawyers, people whose whole job is finding things. If you'd wanted to know whether you had a kid out there, you could have looked. The words hit him. I saw it land. His composure cracked, just for a second. You're right. He didn't flinch. Didn't deflect. I could have looked, should have looked. But I told myself your mother left because she wanted to. That I needed to respect her choice. Truth is, I was scared of what I'd find. Scared of me? Scared of failing you. His voice dropped. Got rough? My father turned everything into a competition. Being his son meant being tested every single day and never quite measuring up. When your mother left, I convinced myself you were better off without that weight. Without me. Ren was quiet for a long moment. That's a coward's excuse. Yeah. He didn't argue. It is. But at least you're honest about it. Something shifted between them. Not trust. Not yet. But a foundation. The beginning of something real. I have another question. Ren's voice changed. Got harder. Harrogate. What happens now? Do I get kicked out before I even start? No. Beckett's voice turned sharp. Final. You earned your place, your essays, your scores, your application. That was all you. The name just got you through a door that should have been open anyway. That's not how elite schools work. It's how this one's going to work. He pulled out his phone. Scrolled through something. I restructured the scholarship funding this morning. It comes through an independent trust now. Administered by a third party. Harrogate gets the money, but they don't get to attach conditions to it. Or to you. What's the catch? What? There's always a catch. Ren crossed her arms. Schools like Harrogate don't just hand out spots. They trade them. So what do they want? I watched Beckett's face. Saw him realize my 13-year-old daughter understood power better than most adults. They wanted a family appearance, he said carefully. A donor event next month. They suggested having a Vale family presence would be beneficial for optics. Beneficial for them. Yes. And you told them no. I told them hell no. He set his jaw. You're a student, not a photo opportunity. Ren studied him. Looking for the lie. The angle. So what did they say? They're reviewing their options. He said it like he was quoting someone, which means they're talking to their lawyers. Trying to figure out if they can push back without losing the endowment. Can they? No. He set his phone down. Because I control the endowment. And if they try to turn you into a mascot, I'll redirect every dollar to a school that actually cares about education instead of brand management. I felt something shift in my chest. Something I wasn't ready to name. Ren nodded slowly. Then, there's something I need to tell you both. Her voice changed. Got smaller. Younger. I went still. The application. Harrogate. She pulled out her phone. Wouldn't look at either of us. I didn't just find it on my own. Beckett leaned forward. What do you mean? Someone reached out. She scrolled through her messages. Through the alumni network. They said they'd seen my academic record. Said Harrogate looks for students like me. Said I should apply. My mouth went dry. Who? I don't know their last name. Ren's voice got defensive. Scared. They just signed everything C at first. Then when I asked, they said Colette. The name landed like a bomb. Beckett's hand froze on the table. His face went pale. Colette. Not a question, a recognition. You know her? I kept my voice level. Barely. He didn't answer right away. Just sat there, staring at Ren's phone like it might bite him. Colette Ashby. His voice was hollow. Empty. She works in development at Harrogate. Alumni relations. Donor coordination. Okay. I waited for the rest. Before that, she worked for my father. He looked up, met my eyes. Personal staff. She was there during, she knew about the other children, the ones he paid off. She helped make them disappear. The floor dropped out from under me. So someone who knows how your family buries secrets. My voice came out shaky, angry, reached out to our daughter and told her to use your name. Yeah. Why? Ren's voice cracked. Why would she do that? What does she want? I don't know. Beckett was already texting someone, but I'm going to find out. I reached across the table, took Ren's hand. Did she ask you for anything? Money? Information? No. She made it sound like I deserved it. Like the Vale name was mine. Like I was just claiming something that already belonged to me. She looked at me, eyes bright with tears she wouldn't let fall. Did I mess everything up? No. I squeezed her hand. Hard. Someone used you. That's not your fault. But I let them. You're 13. My voice came out fierce. Protective. You wanted to belong somewhere. Someone saw that and turned it into a weapon. That's on them, not you. Beckett put his phone down. His face was grim. Colette hasn't been at Harrogate since the week before your application was submitted. She took leave right around that time. Where is she? No one knows. She's not answering calls. Email bounces back. Her apartment's empty. The silence that followed pressed against my ears like water. Someone had pushed my daughter toward this. Someone who knew about Beckett. Who knew about me. Who wanted this whole thing to explode. And now, they were gone. I have a question. Ren looked at Beckett. Her voice steadier now. More like herself. What do you actually want from me? He blinked. What? You said you want to be in my life. You restructured funding. Threatened to pull millions from a school. Made yourself a target. She leaned forward. Why? You didn't know I existed less than a week ago. Why does it matter so much now? The question hung between them. Beckett was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was rough, raw, because I spent years being exactly what my father trained me to be. Careful, controlled, emotionally unavailable. He looked at her, really looked. I let your mother walk away because I was afraid. I told myself it was noble, that she deserved better, but really I was just a coward. He leaned back, let his hands rest on the table. I can't fix the past, can't give you back those years, but I can show up now, be present. Stop letting fear and lawyers and board members decide what kind of man I'm allowed to be. And if it costs you your company, then I'll find another company. He said it simply, like it didn't matter. I'd rather lose Vale Meridian than lose you again. Ren studied his face, looking for the performance, the angle. I'd been doing the same thing for days, looking for the calculation beneath the words. But all I saw was exhaustion, and something that looked almost like hope. Okay, Ren said quietly. I'll give you a chance, but you have to earn it. Every day. No shortcuts. Deal. She almost smiled. And you need better clothes. That sweater makes you look like you're about to lecture me on stock portfolios. Beckett laughed again. Surprised. Genuine. Noted. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. My blood turned to ice. A photo. Grainy. Taken from a distance. But clear enough. The three of us. In this coffee shop. Sitting in this booth. And underneath, one line. Interesting family reunion. Would make a great story. I looked up. Scanned the room. Everyone looked normal. Expensive. Bored. But someone in here was watching. Someone had just taken our picture. Someone wanted us to know they were watching. What's wrong? Beckett saw my face. I showed him the phone. His expression turned to stone. We need to leave. His voice was quiet. Controlled. Dangerous. Now? We stood. Moved toward the exit. Ren between us like we were shielding her from something we couldn't see. The guy at the door nodded as we passed. Same professional distance. Same carefully blank face. We got outside. The street was busy. Midday traffic, pedestrians, normal. Beckett's car was waiting. Black, expensive. Driver already inside. Get in. We did. The door closed. Tinted windows sealed us in. Beckett was already on his phone. Calling someone. I need security on the apartment, now, full sweep. And I need to know who was in that coffee shop in the last 30 minutes. He hung up. Looked at us. Someone knows. His voice was flat. Final. Someone's been following us, documenting this, and they just wanted us to know they're watching. Who? My voice came out strangled. I don't know. Could be Colette. Could be someone she's working with. Could be a reporter who smelled a story. He ran a hand through his hair. Doesn't matter. What matters is we just became a target. Ren was too quiet. Too still. I pulled her close. Wrapped my arm around her shoulders. What do we do? I asked. Beckett looked out the window. At the city scrolling past. At the world that was about to learn his secret, whether he was ready or not. We get ahead of it. His voice hardened. We control the story before someone else does. Meaning what? He turned to look at me. At Ren. At the daughter he'd just met, and the woman he'd lost years ago. Meaning, we stop hiding. He said it like a decision. Like a vow. We go public. On our terms. Before they can turn this into something ugly. Beckett? It's the only way. He looked at Ren. But it's your choice. Your life. Your story. I won't do it without your permission. Ren was quiet for a long time. Then she lifted her chin. Straightened her shoulders. I'm done being someone's secret, she said. If telling the truth is the only way to stop them from controlling the story, then tell it. Beckett nodded slowly. And I realized, sitting in that car, watching the city blur past, we'd just crossed a line we couldn't uncross. The world was about to learn that Beckett Vale had a daughter. And whoever was out there watching, whoever had pushed Ren toward this, whoever was taking pictures and sending threats, they just won the first round. The question was what they wanted, and how much it was going to cost us to find out. Beckett's apartment smelled like expensive minimalism, and the kind of quiet that only money can buy. Floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the park, furniture that looked like it came from a museum. Everything sharp-edged and pristine, like nobody actually lived here. Ren fell asleep on a guest bed that probably cost more than everything in our apartment combined. I sat on a couch that was more art installation than furniture, staring at the city lights, trying to figure out how everything had gone sideways so fast. Beckett sat across from me. Neither of us had spoken in 20 minutes. Finally, his phone rang. He looked at the screen. His face went hard. I have to take this. He stood, walked toward the windows. Vale. I watched his shoulders tense. Watched his free hand curl into a fist. That's not. He stopped, listened. No. Absolutely not. His voice got quieter. More dangerous. I don't care what the optics team says. She's my daughter. Not a liability category. My stomach dropped. He turned away from me, lowered his voice. But I could still hear every word. Then tell the board they can call an emergency session. See where that gets them. A pause. Fine. Tomorrow morning. But I'm not signing anything that treats her like a threat to shareholder value. He hung up. Stood there gripping his phone like he wanted to throw it through the window. What was that? I asked. Legal. He didn't turn around. They want damage control protocols in place by tomorrow. NDAs for anyone who might have seen us together. Background scrubs on you and Ren. A statement drafted for when this inevitably leaks. When. Not if. They're assuming the worst. He turned to face me. Someone took that photo. Someone sitting on it. Deciding when to drop it for maximum impact. Legal wants to be ready. Ready to what? Make us disappear? Ready to manage the narrative. He set his jaw. Their words. I told them to go to hell. I stood up. Walked to the windows. Put distance between us because I needed space to breathe. This is what I was afraid of, I said quietly. This is why I ran years ago. Because your world doesn't just let people exist, it manages them, controls them, turns them into press releases and strategic communications. I'm not letting that happen. You won't have a choice. I turned to face him, The second that photo goes public, the second reporters start asking questions, your board is going to do exactly what they did years ago. They're going to try to make the problem go away. And this time, the problem is my daughter, our daughter. The correction hung in the air. You don't get to claim her yet. My voice came out sharp. You don't get to say our until you've earned it. Until you've proven you're not just managing a PR crisis. Something in his face cracked. You think that's what this is to me? His voice was rough, raw. You think I'm here because I'm worried about stock prices and board votes? I don't know what to think. I wrapped my arms around myself. I watched you for days, watched you restructure funding and threaten your board and say all the right things. But I don't know if you're doing it because you actually care, or because a billionaire's version of caring is just another form of control. The silence that followed hurt. Beckett walked to the bar cart, poured himself something amber, drank it in one swallow. Years ago, his voice was quiet. When you tried to contact me, when someone on my staff intercepted you, I remember. I need you to understand something. He set the glass down, gripped the edge of the bar like he needed something solid. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know they'd done that until you told me days ago. But you're not surprised they did it. He looked up, met my eyes. No. The admission came out like broken glass. I'm not surprised, because that's exactly how the system works. How my father taught everyone around him to work. You see a problem, you handle it. Quietly, efficiently. Before it becomes public, I wasn't a problem. I was pregnant. I know that. He moved toward me, stopped himself. But to them, to the lawyers and the board and everyone who gets paid to protect the Vail name, you were a complication. And complications get managed. With money, with whatever it takes. His voice turned bitter. My father had a whole protocol for it. I found the files when I took over as CEO. Women he'd been involved with, children there were 3 others, before me. Before my brother, I went very still. He paid them off, set up trusts with confidentiality clauses, made sure they'd never claim the name, never make noise, never exist in any way that could threaten the brand. He looked at me. His eyes were too bright. I found those files and I burned them, tracked down the accounts, tripled the payments and removed the gag orders, told them they were free, that I wasn't him, that I swore I'd never do what he did. But you built the same system. Yeah, he laughed. It sounded hollow. I kept his lawyers, his staff, his whole gleaming machine of control. I told myself I was different because I wouldn't use it the same way. But it doesn't matter what I intended. The machine did exactly what it was built to do. It saw you coming and it handled you. I felt something crack in my chest. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what we're up against. He moved closer. It's not just the board. It's not just lawyers. It's a whole apparatus built over generations to protect one thing, the name, the legacy, the illusion that the Vail family is perfect and powerful and untouchable. And Ren threatens that. Ren proves it's a lie. His voice dropped. She proves that I'm human, that I make mistakes, that years ago, I let someone I loved walk away because I was too scared to choose her over what my father built. So what do we do? The question came out smaller than I wanted. How do we fight something that big? We don't fight it. He said it like he'd already decided. We dismantle it, piece by piece. Starting tomorrow? His phone buzzed again. He looked at it. His face changed. What now? He showed me the screen. An email from Harrogate. Subject, urgent, documentation update required. I read it, felt my blood run cold. Dear Mr. Vail, given recent developments and concerns raised by our Board of Trustees, we require immediate clarification regarding Ren's enrollment status. Please provide 1. Legal documentation of familial relationship. 2. Verification of primary guardian status. 3. Availability for a meeting with our legal counsel regarding media protocol expectations. Until these items are provided, Ren's enrollment will be placed on administrative hold. We appreciate your cooperation in protecting the Harrogate community. They're threatening her spot. I looked up. They're using her enrollment as leverage. They're trying to force my hand. Beckett was already typing something. Make me jump through hoops. prove paternity, sign agreements, turn this into exactly what I said it wouldn't be. A transaction. Can they do this? Legally? It's gray area. He sent whatever he was typing, but they're betting I won't push back. That I'll play nice to protect Ren's future. Will you? He looked at me. Something in his eyes turned to steel. No. He said it simply. Because the second I start negotiating with people who treat my daughter like a bargaining chip, I become exactly what you're afraid I am. Another billionaire who thinks everything has a price. So what's the alternative? I call their bluff. He started typing again, and I remind them that Harrogate's endowment isn't a gift. It's a relationship, and relationships end when one party acts in bad faith. You're threatening to pull funding. I'm threatening to redirect it to schools that actually care about students instead of scandal management. He hit send. And I'm CCing their board of trustees so everyone knows exactly where this stands. I watched him work. Watched the CEO take over. The man who commanded rooms and built empires and didn't flinch when the stakes got high. And I realized I still didn't know which version was real. The man who'd just confessed his father's sins. Or the man who'd weaponized millions of dollars to win an argument. Maybe they were the same person. Maybe that was the problem. A sound from the hallway made us both turn. Ren stood in the doorway, hair messy, eyes too awake for someone who'd been asleep 30 seconds ago. How long have you been standing there? I asked. Long enough. Her voice was flat. They're putting my enrollment on hold, using me as leverage to make you play nice. Beckett set his phone down. Ren. And your lawyers think I'm a liability. She crossed her arms. Something that needs managing. Like I'm bad for the brand or whatever. That's not. It's exactly what it is. She looked at me. Mom was right. This is why we stayed away. Because the second people like us get close to people like you, we stop being people. We become problems, complications, things that need handling. You're not a complication. Beckett's voice was fierce. You're my daughter. Then prove it. Ren stepped into the room. Stop playing their game. Stop negotiating and threatening and treating this like a business deal. Just be a person. Be a dad, not a CEO trying to manage a crisis. The words hit him like a physical blow. He stood there, silent, looking at this 13-year-old girl who just called him out with more clarity than any board member ever had. You're right, he said finally. Ren blinked. What? You're right. He moved toward her, slowly. I've been trying to fix this the same way I fix everything, with money and power and leverage. But you're not a problem to be solved. You're a person I want to know. He stopped a few feet away. Gave her space. So tell me what you need. Not what the lawyers need or what Harrogate needs. What do you need? Ren looked at him for a long moment. I need to know this is real. Her voice got smaller, younger. That you're not just doing this because you got caught. That you actually want me, not just the idea of fixing what your dad broke. I want you. He said it simply. I want to know what books you read and what makes you laugh, and whether you're a morning person or a night owl. I want to embarrass you at your high school graduation and argue about college choices and meet whatever person you eventually bring home. He took a breath. I want all of it. The boring parts and the hard parts. Not because I'm trying to redeem myself, but because you're mine. And I already missed too many years. I'm not missing anymore. Something in Ren's face cracked. She didn't cry. But I saw her eyes get bright. Saw her fight it back. Okay. She nodded. Okay. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't look. Almost let it wait. But something made me pull it out. A notification. From that same Society blog. Updated headline. Breaking, Beckett Vale spotted with mystery woman and teen daughter. Sources confirm family connection. Story developing. Underneath, a second notification. From a newswire service. Sources, Harrogate Academy Insider, leaked application details. Alumni Relations employee Colette Ashby, named as person of interest in connection to unauthorized disclosure. They had her name. Someone had connected the dots. I showed Beckett. Watched his face go hard. Colette's been named. His voice was flat. Someone's throwing her to the press. Either she talked or someone's using her as a scapegoat. Who benefits from exposing her? Same people who benefit from exposing Ren. He pocketed his phone. Someone on the board. Someone at Harrogate. Someone who wants to control the narrative by giving the press a villain that isn't them. What do we do? He looked at me. At Ren. At the campus around us. We go home. His voice was steady. We let the press do what they do. And we find Colette before whoever's behind this buries her. And the board? The board has 30 days to decide if they want a CEO with a conscience or a puppet who'll do whatever they say. He started walking toward the car. I know which one I'd bet on. Ren fell into step beside him, then looked back at me. Mom, you coming? I stood there for a moment, looking at the two of them walking together, side by side, same jawline, same stubborn stride, same refusal to look back. For years I'd carried this secret alone, built walls around it, protected it with silence and sacrifice, and the quiet hope that someday, somehow, things might be different. They were different now, not fixed, not safe, not even close to settled, but different. I started walking, caught up with them just as Beckett opened the car door. I still don't trust you, I said, because it was true. I know. He held the door for me. But you're here. I'm here for Ren. I know that too. I got in. Ren was already in the back seat, scrolling her phone, reading comments. Mom? Her voice was quiet. They're calling me brave. Who? People online? Strangers? She turned the phone toward me. They're saying I was brave to use the name, to claim it. I looked at the screen, at the hundreds of comments. Some cruel, some kind, all from people who'd never met us and never would. You are brave, I said. But you don't need strangers to tell you that. She smiled. Small. Real. Beckett started the car. Pulled out of the parking lot. In the rearview mirror, Harrogate got smaller. The ivy-covered buildings, the stone walls, the brass plaque. Ahead of us, the city, the press, the board, Colette Ashby and whoever was pulling her strings, a dozen fights we hadn't started and couldn't avoid. But between us, in this car, something had shifted. We weren't hiding anymore. We weren't running. We were a family, broken and brand new and fragile as glass. And whatever came next, we'd face it together. The name had opened the gate. The alarm was still ringing. But for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying this alone. And that changed everything.
Names are funny things. They can build you up or tear you down, open doors or set off alarms. They can be gifts or weapons or cages or keys. Clara spent years hiding from a name. Ren spent years searching for one. And Beckett spent years pretending a name was all he needed. But names don't make families. Choices do. The choice to show up, to tell the truth, to stand in front of a room full of powerful people and say, this child is mine. And I'm not ashamed. That's what Beckett did. Whether he did it for the right reasons, that's for you to decide. But here's what I know. Somewhere out there, Colette Ashby is still missing. The board is still circling. The press is still hungry. And whoever set this whole thing in motion, whoever pushed a 13-year-old girl toward a name that would blow up a billionaire's life, they're still watching. The question isn't whether the truth will come out. It always does. The question is who gets to tell it. Hit subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me who you think Colette is working for. Tell me whether Beckett will choose Ren when the real pressure hits. Tell me what you'd do if your whole life depended on a name you never asked for.
Ren fell asleep before we hit the highway. Her head against the window, phone still in her hand, face finally peaceful. I watched her in the mirror. My daughter, my brilliant, stubborn, too brave for her own good daughter. She'd walked into a world that wasn't built for people like us. She'd knocked on a door that should have stayed closed. She'd written a name on a piece of paper and changed everything. And somehow, against every instinct I had, against every wall I'd built, she was going to be okay. Maybe we all were. Clara. Beckett's voice was quiet. Thank you. For what? For raising her. He glanced in the mirror. At Ren. For raising her into someone who doesn't back down, who doesn't let people make her small. I looked at him. At the man I'd loved. The man I'd left. The man who was still trying to prove he deserved a second chance. Don't thank me yet. I turned back to the road. We're just getting started. He nodded. And we drove into the city, into the noise and the questions and the fight that was waiting for us. The gate was open. The alarm was ringing, but we weren't running anymore.